Elon Musk names his new CEO. AWS moves to give more price certainty to companies. Linux and other open source skills remain in demand. And what exactly does Google have against Canada? These top tech news stories and more for Monday, May the 15th, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Love, CIO of IT World Canada and Tech News Day in the U.S. Let's get it over with early in the newscast. Elon Musk has named the new CEO of Twitter. What Musk has described previously as a made-up and meaningless title goes to, drumroll, Linda Yaccarino, former chief of advertising at Comcast Corp's NBC Universal. Yaccarino certainly has the experience, reportedly having spent the past few years modernizing NBC Universal's ad business. Earlier, she spent 20 years at Turner as a CEO and EVP across its advertising, sales, marketing, and acquisitions divisions. Turner owns and operates CNN and is owned by Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, she's also chair of the World Economic Forum's Task Force on the Future of Work and has been on a number of other prestigious boards and commissions. Musk said he admired her work effort, saying, "Buddy, I met my match," referring to his own obsessive work schedule. She'll need it. Yaccarino will have her work cut out for her. Twitter's ad sales and revenue have plummeted under Musk's leadership, which has been mercurial to say the least. Some analysts attribute the losses to the fear that some brands have of what content would be next to their brands, with huge reported increases in, to put it kindly, inappropriate messages, and with losses of up to 80% of Twitter staff, a real shortage of resources to clean up the mess. Reportedly, when the two first met, Yaccarino had pressed Musk on the loss in ad revenue. Apparently unaware of Musk's comments about the irrelevance of the CEO position, Yaccarino enthusiastically tweeted that she has long been inspired by Musk's vision to create a brighter future. "I'm excited to help bring this vision to Twitter and transform this business together." Well, hey, it's better than the poop emoji they usually send to the press. Despite the doom and gloom of the layoffs and reductions in big tech players, the open source arena has a much more positive outlook. Hillary Carter, Senior Vice President of Research and Communications at the Linux Foundation, said this in her keynote speech at Open Source Summit North America in Vancouver, Canada. She said, "In spite of what the headlines are saying, the facts are 57% of organizations are adding workers this year." These comments are supported by the data in the Linux Foundation's State of Tech Talent Report for 2023. The report has a number of positive findings. Where tech companies, even Red Hat that deals with open source, are reducing staff, many other companies are actively hiring and struggling to find top talent. Employers are focusing on new technologies such as cloud, containers, and, surprise, surprise, cybersecurity and AI. But these companies are also making real investments in their existing staff, realizing something that the larger tech companies may find coming back to haunt them. When you need to bounce back, hiring is difficult. The report notes that almost 1 in 3 new hires departs within the first 6 months, an expensive turnover. It also notes real emphasis on training and upskilling existing staff, with 58% of employers upskilling existing employees rather than hiring consultants to fill their gaps. And despite cost and profit pressures, 70% of organizations surveyed provide training opportunities for their staff. Amazon Web Services, AWS, announced new pricing on its Aurora database aimed at delivering predictable pricing for customers. Public cloud providers like AWS have touted their ability to deliver on-demand computing, where companies only pay for the computing power and storage they actually use. And while that's been shown to have real benefits, it's a model that has been confusing and difficult to predict. In fact, one of the biggest complaints of companies continues to be the difficulty in predicting cloud costs. In a recent study from Flexera called the State of the Cloud 2023, the number one metric for assessing progress in achieving cloud goals was cost efficiency and savings at 60%. Outstripping delivery and speed of new products and services by a full 15%. When asked in the same survey as to what IT's priorities for the cloud were, the number one priority was managing and optimizing costs of cloud services at 64%. The number two priority at 61% was decide, advise on apps appropriate for cloud, which is keenly tied to cost issues. AWS's new model aims to address these concerns, at least in part. In an announcement on May 11th, AWS will offer an option where customers are not charged for individual read and write operations on their Aurora database. AWS points out that many companies have unexpected or variable peaks in activity that are seasonal or are related to factors the company has not expected. We've all heard stories of companies that have launched or modified a product or offering only to find out there was so much demand that it crashed their website. While a cloud-based system can easily be adjusted to deal with some viral moments in demand, one of the reasons they are popular, this can come at a horrendous and surprising cost. AWS's pricing removes one big and unpredictable variable. The move comes at a time when AWS is feeling the heat as Microsoft Azure and even Google Cloud are eroding AWS's lead. AWS has held a market share position which until recently was greater than Azure and Google Cloud combined. And while they're still in the lead position, having 32% versus Azure's 23%, Azure has moved up by 2% in the recent quarter, and Google Cloud, now profitable for the first time, has inched up by 1%. Introducing StarCoder, billed as the biggest open-source large language model for code. It was developed by Big Code, a partnership between Hugging Face and ServiceNow, which the partners say focuses on creating huge programming language models ethically. StarCoder was developed with the help of GitHub's open license data, which includes over 80 programming languages, Git commits, GitHub issues, and Jupyter notebooks. StarCoder was reportedly tested on a wide range of benchmarks, including Human Eval, a widely used benchmark for Python. Again, reportedly, StarCoder was shown to be more effective than larger models like PaLM, Lambda, and Llama. There are reportedly some limitations on what the model can and cannot do based on the training data used. These primarily relate to how instructions can be issued, but they can be, in the words of the study, overcome. StarCoder is also restricted by its licensing under the OpenRail M license, which places restrictions on how it can be modified or used. Perhaps inspired by the earlier leak of Meta's Llama code, there are tools available to look for plagiarized copies of the models. Now, despite restrictions, researchers hope that this new open source model will be developed further, but continue to be used for good. And finally, a couple of quick stories to finish up with. HP is taking some criticism for a new upgrade that refuses to operate the printer when third-party ink cartridges are used. HP's taken criticism for this in the past, but it appears to be happening again. Now, not all models are affected, but read the product data carefully if you plan to use what some view as cheaper third-party alternatives. The new Super Mario Bros. Movie has some bootleg copies floating around the internet, but watch out. These pirate copies are being used as part of phishing campaigns, and they have malware embedded in them. And a Canadian and a Swede and a Swiss walk into a bar. I said a bar, not a bard, as in Google's Bard. It's AI that is stated it was released in 180 countries, but not Canada. I'm sure of that, and from reports I've heard, but not verified, not Sweden or Switzerland either. Now, I'm just wondering, is this a coincidence? Google got raked over the coals recently in a Canadian parliamentary committee, so are we persona non Google? Or is it just the most amazing omission? Is Google going to do the Canadian thing now and say, sorry? I don't know. But if you need me, I'll be at my computer downloading VPN software. That's the top tech news for today. You can read these stories and more on technewsday.com in the US and on itworldcanada.com in, Canada. We go to air with a daily newscast 5 days a week, as well as a special weekend interview with an expert on topics relevant to today's tech news. Follow hashtag trending on Google, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can get us on Alexa or your Google smart speaker as well. And we're also now on YouTube with the daily news as Tech News Day. We love your comments. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or on Mastodon as @TheRealJimLove on our Mastodon site, technews.social. Or if that's too much, just leave a comment under the text version at itworldcanada.com/podcasts. And you can find all of the links in those text versions. I'm your host, Jim Love. Have a marvelous Monday.